Hey, I'm your host, Kenyetta Hall, business and product strategist, former founder, and professional pivoter. And welcome to Kenyetta Speaks, the Power to Pivot podcast, where we talk about the intersection between tech, business, and personal growth, helping you pivot with power, purpose, and a plan, because staying stuck isn't an option. My mission is to help you make that pivot in your career and your business by providing you with practical tools, real talk, actionable steps, and engaging interviews, going deep into the highs and lows of tech, entrepreneurship, and what it takes to stay sane through it all. No surface level BS over here, just real stories, real pivots, and real wins. Because my goal is to not just inspire you, but inspire you to action. Let's get it. Hey y'all, what's going on? My name's Kenyetta, and this is Kenyetta Speaks, the Power to Pivot podcast. And I am so excited to finally have started this. This podcast has been, I would say, 5 years in the making, name and everything. For those of you who don't know, my name is Kenyetta. I'm a business and product strategist. I own my own business called the Catalyst HQ, where we work with entrepreneurs and organizations to really build leaders, teams, and products that matter to the world. My background's in product management. So shout out to all the product managers out there. And I'm taking that product thinking skills and bringing it to help organizations do innovation at scale. So let's really get started into, why I actually started the podcast. So I don't know if you guys have ever felt as if sometimes you just didn't belong or you didn't fit or in this current space that you're in now. And so that was me, right? The first story I want to tell is my story, right? I want to tell you exactly how I ended up here starting my own thing. So I'll start when I was a twinkle in my father's eye. I'm lying. I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start when I graduated college because I think this is important to note. So throughout my career, I would say that I've never kept a job longer than 2 years. I think the longest job I had was 3.9 years with an organization. And that was the last full-time W-2 job that I had. And so when I was released into my purpose, as my cousin said it, she said that to me when I was let go during a layoff. She said, she was on the phone one day and she was talking to someone else. I'm not sure who it was, but she said, so we just here celebrating Kenyetta because she was released into her purpose. Why this is important is because my last day at said job was my birthday. And when I heard her say that, it took me by surprise. Like, what do you mean released into my purpose? And I didn't really fully grasp that concept of what that actually meant. So that was my second pivot, not my first. My first pivot was my mindset. During that time before I got laid off at said job, I had actually been praying to God that he would make me uncomfortable because I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't really know what the next steps actually looked like, but I knew it wasn't being where I was at. And so not only praying, but saving, because you need to follow up with what you say with your actions. And that I was saving money and I was doing all the things I needed to be uncomfortable, including ensuring that inside I was able to handle that. So when I was let go, the first thing I said was that I wasn't devastated, one, because I saw it coming. But what I said was, all right, so what's the severance package? Because that's really what I felt. So I felt like I was really being released into something. Now, that time I had already signed my first client. I was already a part of a co-founder in an AI startup back that I've been since 2019. I was released into my purpose during COVID, so 2020. And so I felt good. I felt like, yeah, this is about to happen. And it didn't. It didn't happen at all. Matter of fact, what happened was that I had a surprisingly bad client interaction. It was not good for me. And then after that, it was just a series of things that kept happening to me. So I wasn't the entrepreneur who made 10K in 27 days. And immediately when I launched, I had all this in my pocket. That's not exactly what happened to me. What happened to me is things started to fall apart. And what I thought I was going to do, I didn't end up doing. So now we'll go back to the third pivot, right? The first pivot was my mindset shift into being uncomfortable. The second pivot was actually being let go and being okay with that. And then now going through these challenges, there were some other things that I need to readjust. And I think that's why I had this space to do it. I didn't realize it then. So I pivoted and started doing more business coaching and consulting work with small businesses. I made progress with that, but it was something holding me back from getting more clients. And I thought it was my message. I thought it was how I thought about things. And the major number one thing that held me back was I didn't trust myself. And because I didn't trust myself to make decisions, and I had realized that it was affecting literally everything in my business, right? Because I feel like I went through these failures and I hadn't really recovered from them. I had some slight PTSD from coming out of corporate, because I think people don't talk enough about having PTSD coming out of corporate and learning how to navigate that. And so I wasn't on solid ground. I was building something on sand. And it showed, right? It showed up in how my ability to get clients wasn't there, how I felt as if my pitch was off. It felt like it just wasn't off. And I think I had a friend who said something that really resonated with me during that time, was that I was telling my story in someone else's voice. I was trusting everything and everybody's opinion around me but my own. And it showed. It showed in how I was navigating life. It showed in how I was navigating my business. It showed in everything that I was doing. And so as I was navigating these curveballs that was knocking me the hell out, I made a decision to, at some point, bought a coaching program to see if I can make this happen. Probably wasn't the best purchase for me because I didn't trust myself. And then I was like, all right, cool. I got to figure some shit out, because if I don't, my whole life's about to fall apart, right? Like, I could get money in the door. So I went and got a contract job. And let me tell you what the contract job did for my confidence. Okay. So for my confidence, it helped me realize not what I was internally worth, but it helped me realize that I had what it takes to do the things that I wanted to do. And let me tell you why. When I left my job, I was making roughly $92,000 a year, which is really good money. When I got that contract position, I went from 92 to 167, right? And so that was if you ever had one of those pivotal times in your life where something validated something for you that you knew you needed validated, and it was sent to you. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I had a shift, right? Then I had this pivot, and then I was doing some business coaching, and then boom, I went and got this contract job, and I was like, me? And they was like, yeah. And it took me to the next level and specifically around who I thought I was. And what I could do. So here's why this is important. I say this. The time that I was feeling like I was having a bad time and I need to go get that contract job was also around the time when I felt like I just really needed some validation. And the reason this came about was because I felt like, because I never carried the title in corporate, that how could I be out here consulting organizations on anything? I felt like because I didn't, I wasn't VP, or if I wasn't CTO, or that somebody would not want to hire me to do the things that I was doing, or that I needed that title to validate my actual expertise in something, right? And so when I went and got this contract position, it gave me some things that I didn't even know I needed at the time, right? That to believe in that and to believe in myself in that way. And so I had that contract job, and then after a year, we didn't renew, and I was back in this space, right? I was back in this space like, okay. And so we did renew. That's fine. But what does that look like for now? So now what do I do? Because what I realized too was that how I was doing business was not how I wanted to do business. Because like I told you before, I was literally telling my story in someone else's voice. And after I had that contract job, I was feeling overwhelmed. Like, what am I going to do? And what I started to think about was, if I am telling my story in someone else's voice, then what is my voice? Now, if anybody meets me in person, that's not something that you would say to me. That's not something you would be like, Kenyetta doesn't know what she represents. Like, that's wild. I can't even believe that. That's from her. No, that's crazy. I would never think that. But that shows you sometimes that people are not necessarily a reflection of what they're going through at the time. Okay. And I just wasn't a reflection of that. But internally, I did not have it. I didn't have it together where I wanted to have it together. Right. So I actually decided to spend some time focused on doing that. Was really just doubling down on, if I'm using someone else's voice, then what is mine? Right. And if I don't know my voice, then what am I doing? Right. How am I showing up? And it was time to do a self-assessment on who I was and why I was showing up the way that I was showing up, and how I could be different, and what are the changes I needed to make in order to get me from A to B and then from B to C. So that was the journey that I was starting to go on. And so I started to just start crafting and thinking and just trying to figure it out. And then the one thing that I wasn't doing, though, that I should have been doing, was ensuring that I had defined a vision for myself, an appropriate vision, and then gave myself space and grace to make it happen. What I wasn't tackling, because I'm thinking I'm tackling my voice, but what I should have been tackling was, why am I playing small? I'm thinking I am tackling like I have to get this money. And what I should have been tackling is, why haven't I listened to myself? And so what I wasn't tackling initially was the internal things that I needed to handle that was showing up in my business, that was stalling me from actually getting the traction I needed in order to take it from A to B to B to C, right? Because I honestly just didn't believe that I could believe in myself. Because I felt like I didn't have these credentials. And so what that led to me doing is taking another step back and making some reorganizations, even though I was scared, right? Even though I was in my mind, I was thinking like, what are people going to think about me switching up, doing some different things? And it really weighed on me. And so eventually what I ended up doing was pivoting to the space I have now, showing up a bit more authentic, little by little. And so what I want to leave with you is 3 things that when you are in this space of a pivot like I was, and still am, because pivoting is an evolution, and that your story is not always complete, right? Right? It's the journey. And I didn't really understand that because I needed to be at the destination so bad, not recognizing that wasn't the important part. And so there's 3 things that I want to leave with you that I think is going to be important that helped me start to refigure my life in a way that was beneficial to me and not working against me. Okay. To start doing entrepreneurship my way, not someone else's way, not copying this, not doing this, but understanding to pull from those things. Trust my own decision-making process and start doing entrepreneurship my way. So the first thing that I stopped doing was playing the comparison game. Comparison is the thief of joy every single time. And everybody on the internet will lead you to believe that they are doing great. And not to say I want anybody to do bad, because I really don't want that for anyone. But what often happens is that we are so busy paying attention to the things around us and comparing ourselves to other people and things and what they have, is that we have lost focus and sight on the things that we need to be focused on for ourselves to get us from A to B. And for myself, I had played that comparison game over and over and over and didn't even realize how much that was affecting how I was delivering and showing up for myself, right? And so what I had to do was start to deconstruct what was the cause of that, right? And what the main cause of me but for me playing a comparison game was my necessity, not necessity, but for my need to be validated at the time. What I didn't realize is that throughout my career, I felt like I had been unvalidated. I've always been smart. There's never been a time that I haven't been smart, right? Like that's never been a thing. I've always had discernment. I've always had foresight. I've always had those things, but I don't necessarily think that in the things that I was in, that those skills was cultivated or that I got the validation that I was looking for. So I was playing this comparison game, trying to shout people to the rooftop to what I could do, realizing, and then as I thought deeper, realizing that what I was searching for was validation and comparing myself against other people's stories, stealing my own joy and becoming unfocused on the things that I needed to focus on that truly brought me joy and not standing in my strengths. So I had to really sit back and deal with, what is this need of validation and why do I need this validation from certain people when I really just don't, right? And it's because I didn't trust myself. Right. So I had to stop playing that comparison game. I know that was a lengthy one for number one. The comparison game really helped me. And the reason I say that is because the comparison game really helped me start to think through why I wanted to be validated, which led me to how much I didn't trust myself and how I still hadn't dealt with not trusting myself, which kept me comparing myself to others. And for you out there, let me tell you something. You will never win comparing yourself to anybody else, because what it does is that all it does is stall you, and it constantly makes you move your own goalposts. So even if you're having some level of success, you'll never truly enjoy that. You never truly feel that joy, because now you have moved the goalposts for yourself and compared yourself to something else, right? And what you've told yourself is that I'm still not good enough. I still need to be validated. I still don't trust myself, which leads me into number two, which is You need to start tuning everybody the hell out, and you need to tune into you. And it's not just tuning into your business, because at the end of the day, this stuff starts with your mindset. If you're in your career, your business, anything, it is a mindset, and you can't have the right mindset for the level of success that you want to achieve if you are not tuning everybody else out and tuning into you. Does that mean that you don't take a course and learn something, or look at other people to get inspiration? No, but oftentimes you're not getting inspiration. Oftentimes you're looking for the comparison factor. You're not inspired, you're trying to compare because you don't trust you. But what you got to learn how to do when it comes to building your legacy, what you have to learn how to do when it comes to truly understanding who you are and how you want to show up, is you actually have to tune people out, and you have to tune in, and you have to give yourself an opportunity to be great. Because when you're not tuned in, you have successfully stolen your own opportunity yourself. How could you be great if you focus on everything and everybody else around you? You can't. You can't be great if that's the case. So the number two thing you need to always do is tune everybody else out and tune into you, your needs, and your vision. Okay. Number three, you need to start doing stuff that works for you. Okay. You have to start doing stuff that works for you. I think one of the key things that I wasn't doing is that I was trying to, you know how you go to these coaching programs and stuff like that, and the coaching programs are giving you a pathway. And I think it's important to note that when you're in certain types of programs, or school is giving you a pathway, right? But you also have to understand where you are and know when to employ those things. Okay. So you have to start doing things in a way that works for you. Not only do you need to understand when and how to apply those things, but you also have to understand where your capacity lies, right? You have to understand, do you have the bandwidth to do it in that way? And lastly, to that point, is that in your career and in business, one of the major key things that you need to be doing is being consistent. And when you feel like you are not doing things in a way that's beneficial to you, you cannot be consistent. It becomes too hard to show up, right? In your business, show up for yourself. So you have to give yourself the opportunity to be successful by being consistent. And that means you got to start doing things that work for you today. That leads me to number four. I know I said three, but at four, I might got a fifth one in me too. But four things is start operating from your strengths. From your strengths. One of the main reasons that I started a podcast was because I am a strong talker. Okay. People talking about copywriting and all that. And I think that's phenomenal. Right? Now you give me an argumentative paper and I can shut this shit down. Okay. But what I am is a talker. And I know that when I speak, my words have power. And what I have been doing for such a long time was leaning into things that were hard for me, number one, to execute, and number two, were not my strengths. I'm trying to sit up here and write different types of ways, different types of posts. It's not to say I don't work on those things. But what is going to make me successful today is capitalizing and really honing in on my strengths. And that was the purpose of me starting a podcast, was because I had to start leaning into my strengths of talking. Okay. So that's number four, lean into your strengths. And if you don't know your strengths, the first thing I would do is go find them out. One of the key things that helped me was taking the Strength Finders test. I think that was so super important to me because listen, my level of influence is high, right? I'm I'm all of those things. And it really helped me understand where I could gain the most value for myself, where I would probably show up and get the most return on my investment in the space or in my business, right? It helped me start to figure out where my gaps were and what tools, people, or processes I need to put in place in order to fill those gaps, right? What education did I need to get in order to make that happen, right? And so that's what number four did for me, okay? And number five, and I might have a sixth one in there. Number five, trust yourself. 9 out of 10 times, trust yourself, right? You know, it's funny because I think about this whole notion of trusting yourself all the time. And I think of when it comes to, consultants and things like that. And, a lot of people are like, we don't really like consultants and this. I'm like, no. You don't like these type of people because you're looking for an answer that you already know, right? But you don't trust yourself enough to execute. Okay. Now, that's not all the time for consultants and strategists. Because I am a consultant and strategist, right? But there are some people hired because they don't trust themselves, right? To make a decision, right? So they go hire somebody else to make those decisions. So if something goes wrong, they can blame them. Wrong reason to hire a consultant, okay? Or a strategist. Wrong damn reasons. But what you need to do is learn how to trust yourself. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, where you are in your life is a reflection of the decisions that you make. And you actually, as an entrepreneur or a person in business, need to be okay with start making the decisions, right? Because what you're really trying to do is avoid the consequence of having a bad decision. The problem with that is that stops you from making a decision altogether. And that's a problem in itself. As an entrepreneur, my goal is to not make the right decision, is to make the best decision with the information that I have at the time. But at the end of the day, I have to make a damn decision. Right. And so if I make a wrong decision, which is wrong, if the market's going to tell me whether that decision's right or wrong or not, but I have to give the market the opportunity to even give me feedback. Right. So if the market tells me I'm right or wrong, what's the next thing that I need to do? I need to make another damn decision. Right. That's what goes into that. Right. We have to start understanding that we have to start making the decisions. Right. I'm probably like number 8, but again, give yourself grace. I think we spend a lot of time not giving yourself grace. I spent a lot of time not giving myself grace. I spent so much time beating myself up, not realizing that was taking a negative effect on negative effect on how I showed up in my business, how I showed up in my life. It took a negative effect on me in that way. And so I had to really start to double down on giving myself grace. You know, we have to realize that our inability to give ourselves grace, again, is now we have put ourselves in decreasing our chances and probability of success, because we can't give ourselves grace. So since we can't give ourselves grace, we have now decreased our chances and probabilities of success because we're so busy being hard on ourselves, we don't even execute. We don't make any decisions. Another thing that I had to do was really double down on my focus and my discipline practice. I think because I was playing that comparison game, I was unfocused and I was undisciplined. And I was listening to something that said that in order to really start changing up your practices around how you want to deliver and be successful, you have to change, or you have to rein in your undisciplined imagination. And my imagination was undisciplined, which always put me in a space of worry and doubt and not trusting myself and playing a comparison game, right? So I needed to double down on my focus. I needed to double down on my discipline and my practice. And the last and final thing that I want to leave you that really solidified some things for me as I pivot and continue to pivot whenever I want to pivot, right, was having a space of gratitude. And what I started to realize was that having a space of gratitude actually was gasoline on a fire, right? We people are motivated by good things all the time. Internally, we're motivated by that. As soon as we see some good stuff and we get inspired, we're ready to go. And because I was so hard on myself, I was blowing my flame out. I was letting the logs burn a little too long without igniting the fire. Right? And so when we think about gratitude, what is your gratitude practice? How do you thank yourself, big or small? For me, my gratitude practice has been to go every week on take myself on a thankful dinner. One, I like a good restaurant and restaurant experience because I love food. Okay. Food is the weight of my heart. Okay. And I realized that eating food brings me joy. So naturally, I wanted to do something in my gratitude practice that brought me joy, and food does that. And I decided that was going to be a space that I honor myself and the achievements that I have had for that week, big or small. Right. And so if you want to start to change that about yourself, you need to change up the way that you show yourself gratitude, the way that you show up and be thankful, because we all need gasoline on the fire. Okay. And last but not least, find you a community that's going to hold you accountable and not just tell you what you want to hear. And you need to have people around you that will hold you accountable in love, not because they think that they should tell you anything. And you need to be more mindful about who those people are. Everybody can't be the person that holds you accountable. That's not everybody's job. Okay. So just because you think what type of person they are, nah, you need to really think about that. Right. But you need to build those people, that community. It needs to be small. Everybody don't need to be in your community of accountability. Okay. So you need to figure out what that looks like for you. And they need to be able to tell you things in love. Right. So they need to be able to tell you things in love. All right. These are the fundamental things that will help you get unstuck out of analysis paralysis and start you on your way to the pivot and the pivots you want to make and to the career and businesses that you want to have on your terms, not anybody else's terms, but yours. So if you have learned something today, please leave it in the comments. Please review this podcast. Please come back for the next episode. The next episodes are going to be a series. And cause I'm a series girl. I'm not going to do seasons, but I'm going to do series because I think it's important that we not only be inspired, but we're inspired to action. And the way to do that is have inspiration to be able to learn, think, and do, right? And that's what this is all about here. So again, my name is Kenyetta Hall, Power to Pivot podcast. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, and I will see y'all next time.